Hey, it's me, Bobby33, and today I'm reviewing Viva Pinata for the Xbox 360. I heard about this franchise for a while now, and I didn't find any interest in this game until right now. And since this game's 20th anniversary is this year in November, I decided to give this game a try. So is this game an underrated gem, or another game that's forgotten in the Xbox era? Let's find out. Before I begin with the backstory of Viva Pinata, I want to give a quick recap of Rare and my relationship with some of the games. Over a decade ago, I started making retrospective reviews like this, and I began with Donkey Kong Country and worked my way through most of Rare's catalog until I reached the Nintendo 64. And I reviewed some of the games in the Xbox 360 era and recently grabbed out the GUIs. So the point I'm trying to make here is I'm a huge fan of Rare. If you ask me what my first Rare game was, it would have been Donkey Kong Country. I'm not sure if I said that in a past video, but after looking through some of the past games, it turns out my first Rare game was a Sesame Street game, and that kind of blew my mind. I don't know, it's kind of similar to that one movie, Puss in Boots, The Last Wish, where you think the deaf debut was at the bar with Puss in Boots, but a friend found out that he was hiding in the background at the beginning of the movie. I don't know, knowing that Sesame Street was my first Rare game, and maybe even my first game in general, it was either that or Super Mario Brothers. I don't know, it's like that kind of surprised me a bit. Back to the actual game. According to the Making of Viva Pinata video, this game was originally going to be for the Pocket PC, or at least that was the original idea. Then they thought about the DS, which they did later on by a different company, and finally they landed on the 360. As for cut content, it's mainly stuff save for the sequel, like many water creatures, and why they chose pinatas instead of regular animals is to fit the environment better, which, you know, is a good choice. And there's also this cut platypus animal, despite having a beaver and a duck in the game, and also two different animals that are able to romance dance with each other. So breeding with other creatures is not impossible, although not done too often. The one thing I remember about Viva Pinata, despite not playing the game for a very long time, is the old commercials that used to show on Cartoon Network. Pretty much the voice actor Dan Green was voicing the horse and trying to convince these kids not to hit him, only to trick them and run away. Man, that was a really good commercial. I'm surprised that commercial itself didn't sell me on the game.
Clear, kids. I'm not magical.
Giddy up! Yeah! Yeah! That was acting, children! Bravo for me!
Pinatas.
And just to get this out of the way, there was also a TV show by 4Kids on the Fox box, or probably 4Kids TV, when it was called, alongside Sega Sonic X and Nintendo's Kirby Right Back at Ya. If there was only a PlayStation rep, then they could have all four of the major console maker, even though Sega was a third-party company during that time. Back then, 4Kids didn't have the greatest reputation at the time due to the cheesy humor, questionable edits, and cutscenes, especially with One Piece, and even the voice acting. I can still hear this guy in the black hoodie every time somebody mentions Jason Griffith. I'm not going to name any names, but if you know, you know. This is the reason why I didn't get Viva Pinata. Not because of the guy, because I just saw 4Kids TV and thought it was like a quick license game, not like an actual Rare game. I mean, when I got 360, I remember getting Banjo Kazooie Nuts and Bolts, Perfect Dark Zero, and Cameo, all for $5 each at GameStop. Pretty good deal. But I skipped Viva Pinata because, again, I just saw it more of a licensed game than an actual Rare game, despite Rare making licensed games like GoldenEye, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and, well, Sesame Street, as I mentioned earlier on. I don't know, I just didn't take Viva Pinata seriously, but now here's the opportunity, and sorry about the thunder in the background.
It's party time!
At first, I was going to make a little joke saying, oh, I expected the intro to the cartoon show to be on there, but it actually is on the actual game. It shows that the show and the game was being made at the same time. The game starts with Z-Force crying at an abandoned field, and you must help her fix up the garden and attract different kind of pinatas in that garden. And that's pretty much the story for the most part. There are extra lore you can get in a journal, but I'll keep that a secret. And, well, to be honest, I didn't record a lot of that stuff either. So, that's another reason. And you might have noticed, based on the footage I'm showing right now, that I had a bit of trouble at first because it's not really a straightforward game. It's not a hard game, but it's definitely not simple either. And I'll explain a little bit more than that. But each pinatas have different requirements for appearance, residence, and romance. I didn't put all that together at first until I read the journal entry in the game. And if you watch the Rare's making of video, which I didn't at the beginning, the inspiration is based on nature, and, well, pretty much you need to find ways to attract these different pinatas in your garden. So, more or less, it's a nature simulator game. So here are my 3 tips on playing Viva Pinata for the first time. Number 1, do not get too attached to your garden. Like, many of the layouts, like the buildings, plants, and even the pinatas themselves, because you're going to need to change them out in order to progress throughout the game, especially once you get the upgrades and garden expansions. Number 2, everything matters in the game to progress, like I mentioned a little bit earlier. And I'm not talking, like the pinatas or the gardens themselves, but also the shops, the costume you buy, decorations, buildings. Everything has a purpose. It may not seem too necessary, or it may not. Originally, I skipped some of them because I thought they weren't necessary, especially the costumes. But now you're gonna need to put costume on some of your pinatas to romance them, for example. And number 3, and, well, this one may not be a great tip for a lot of people, but you may need to look online for curve variations and evolutions of pinatas. Now, I looked into the Viva Pinatas wiki, and shout out for them. I'm not sure how they were able to figure out half the stuff in this game. Maybe the game tells you, and I just couldn't find it, but I had to look online in order to progress throughout the game. And I agree, maybe that's a sign of maybe not a bad game, but a bad part of the game. But I kind of enjoyed that part. It kind of brought back some nostalgia, where I had to look online, like Pokemon, to get, certain evolutions. So, at the very least, I had some enjoyment looking, trying to progress. Once I had a better understanding on how the game works, I was surprised how addictive this game can be. Originally, I was just going to record maybe an hour or 2, but I ended up spending hours on one recording without realizing it. I don't play a lot of simulators, but, well, from my impressions, I thought it's pretty much do whatever you want with maybe some small progressions here or there, requirements. But this game, it surpasses my expectations to a whole new level. I mean, at first I was trying to get every pinata available, every seed Seeders was giving out, and build every house I can. The problem is that you have limited space to get certain pinatas, so you have to make sacrifices. Sacrifice your other pinatas in your garden or sell them to level up and expand your garden and get access to more items and decorations. As you may notice, pinatas are based on candies and other snacks. Some of my favorite pinatas are the pressed tail, bunnycombs, fudgehogs, Gaia Gugu, marshmallows, sonana, and squazeros. And there's also sour pinatas that drop sour candies to make your regular pinatas sick, and you can change them into normal pinatas with different requirements. Also, ruffians and Professor Pester might ruin your gardens, so if you're thinking you can do anything you want for the most part, you'll be wrong. And to be fair, I really like this edition because you can't be too comfortable. It gives you something to work towards and be protective of your garden. There's also human pinatas that has different purpose, like Leafos gives you information when you speak to her, but some of the information she gives you can be false, so be careful. In fact, I think the TV show is more accurate than Leafos herself. Seedos can give you random seeds, which is great at the beginning. And the village has a shopkeeper. You can buy plants, decorations, other stuff, and to hire people to help maintain your garden. A hunter to catch wild pinatas, or the ones that you already have as a resident before, and so much more. And the voice actors for them, they did a great job adding their personalities. My favorite one is Petunia, the costume saleswoman, Bart, the tinker, and Riri, the builder. The main part of the game is romance dance, where you have to meet specific requirements for each pinatas to get them to breed. Some of them are very simple, while a lot of them can be very, very demanding, especially the raspberry. That's one example. And that's one of the most annoying requirements in the game, in my opinion. But once you get them to breed once, you're free to feed them romance candy after that. That makes the process a whole lot easier, and you'll be able to get more of the same pinatas that way. Before I started playing this game, I thought it was going to be an average game with nothing special about it. At least that's what other reviewers tell me during that time. After my playthrough, I ended up really liking this game. It went from a okay game for an Xbox era game to probably the best rare game in the Xbox era, to one of my favorite rare games of all time, even comparing to the Super Nintendo N64 eras. I'm not sure where to rank on my list. Maybe not in the top 5, maybe time will tell, but definitely somewhere in the top 10. This is an underrated gem, and I recommend everybody give it a try, especially if you own Rare Replay. Now, the game did successful enough. I don't have any solid numbers, but it did get a couple of sequels and a spin-off, and of course the TV show went on for at least 2 seasons. So Viva Pinata did do well enough, I guess. Thank you for watching my review, especially if you're watching this in November of 2026, which will make this game 20 years old. Of course, I'm going to review more rare games in the future, but right now I'm probably going to Sega for Certain View Hedgehog. It's his anniversary too, so stay tuned for that. Plus, I'm trying out new things for the channel and try to come up with a consistent schedule, but hopefully you'll subscribe and tune in for more. This is me, Bobby33, and I catch you guys later.